conversation today. Just a matter of years ago, a couple of years ago, perhaps 3 years ago, the 5th Planning District Commission came up with a plan for a new town, perhaps to be located in the Botetourt County area. They felt, I believe at the time, that it would be well to create a new town rather than to have a diffusion of people throughout the area, to bring them together as a new town. Apparently this project didn't get very far at the time. Did that have any bearing on a study that you have just completed over the past year?
Yes, it is partly at least, and actually what I'm doing now is just stimulating to further steps what they have just started many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. The study which I'm doing now is trying to rationalize their earlier decision to select a new town for this region. The site which has been selected, it was arbitrarily selected near Buchanan. What I have tried to do is to select more rational site which could comprehend and take in care of all the elements which should be considered in selecting the site.
And of course, this planning that you've been doing for the past year or so is quite minutely detailed. I believe you've reduced, as a matter of fact, some of your maps to the point that you've taken the entire district and reduced it to 1 square mile areas, have you not?
Right. What we have tried to do actually is to first to check all the potentialities of all the region rather than seeing only part of that region. In other words, to evaluate every square mile in the region in some kind of quantitative method. Later on I'll show you in the map how we have tried to do that in order to come with more rational decision. But anyhow, I thought it would be most valuable to make that evaluation in order to know what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses. Otherwise, as I have used this example once, when you go shopping, you have to know how much money you have in your pocket. Otherwise, you might be bankrupt after a while.
True
and
enough.
I guess in this case of the Roanoke Valley and the 5th Planning Commission, it's the most important to know what are your resources, what are your limits. And then when you will become aware of that limited resources, then you should be very careful using that resources rather than spending it without having the background knowledge about the amount of resources you have.
All right, at this point in the study, would it be fair, at this particular point in our conversation, to say, Doctor, what are the strengths of the area and what are the weaknesses?
Well, maybe we have to start a little bit of introductory things prior to that, if I allow myself in this, and indicate actually why we need a new community in this area. That's, I think, the first question which has to be raised, and then try to indicate where that new community might be located and how it's going to be laid out and so forth.
So basic I overlooked that one.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think there are at least 3 or 4 major elements which dictate the need for such a new community. And let me count them one after the other and explain that also. The first one is the condition where Roanoke City is located. Roanoke City had been cited many centuries ago because of different reasons. By that time were very valid reasons. The need for agricultural land, the need for water resources, the need for communication, transportation through the water, through the valley, and so forth. It was one step toward the west. By that time, that area could have housed a certain number of population. Those reasons no more exist now. And actually what we found that we are expanding on the same base our residential area in the Roanoke Valley, in the Roanoke City, and we are going to face a very crucial problem. Actually, the city of Roanoke, as you see it in this map, for example, we are trying to show in this map that the city of Roanoke is squeezed and blocked within topographical constraints from all sides of the valley. And actually, what has been created here is kind of limits for ventilation movement of the air. Now, this stabilization of air, which might occur sometimes in this area, plus fog in the top of this area, plus the minimum cycling of the air, plus the pollution of the industries and the motors in this area. All these, if will be combined together in certain days, might create a very serious problem which could be ended with the dying of many people in this. I guess that you and the audience might recall that last week people in Pittsburgh have been advised not to leave their homes if they are air conditioned,
yes.
Because the air is highly polluted, and the industry have been requested to reduce to the minimum their operation. So that was a very critical position, and Roanoke Valley and Roanoke City might be in that position by the time when the use of the cars and the industry will be increased in this area.
But are we looking ahead to a rather extended date now when this might conceivably happen?
Well, I could not actually indicate any date. I think for those who know about the amount of pollution which is indicated in this area could do that much better than I do. But all my responsibility in this case is to indicate
but it is
some kind of alarm about that danger,
yes,
which exists.
It is a possibility.
Yes. And all what I'm trying to say, and that has happened already in England. Many people have found themselves died, and somebody else found them died in that area where it was overpolluted and blocked and squeezed by certain topographical constraints. The other reason I think why we have to look for a new site for a new residential area outside the Roanoke City is the fact that this area is going to house nearly 100,000 population in the coming 20 or 30 years. Whether that's going to be 110 or 90, it doesn't make much difference, but we are going to have a high number of population which is going to be either as by in-migration, which will be coming to the region, or by the natural increase, which will be having in this area. This way or another, we have to look forward and see where those people are going to be housed in this region. As I indicated, Roanoke City could not be the potential site for housing those population. And the region as a whole should be the area where the people should be residing. The third thing, I think, is that we have to give some kind of alternative to the future urban growth which is occurring in the eastern part of Virginia as such. Now I'm trying to look at the problems from the state planning point of view rather than from the very local point of view. Now, if this would occur, and if the state will adopt in the future a policy to diverse or to encourage at least population going to the western part of the state rather than increase the number of urbanized area in the eastern part, then this area of the 5th Planning Commission will be one of the potential areas to house those population. Besides, I think that this area is the potential for recreational facilities for the eastern population of the state as a whole. So I think these three factors are enough to indicate the need for a new urban pattern within this region.
Which at the moment shall remain nameless. But
that's right.
The fact is we still need this new town, whatever it may be.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Doctor, where does this lead us at this point?
Well, what we tried to do actually, we wanted to make a study, as I indicated earlier, to count the resources which we have in this area. I tried to take 4 major elements and to evaluate those elements and to grade them, actually dividing all the region to small units, as I indicated earlier, of 1 mile, 1 square mile. One of the elements was the optimal land suitability. In other words, this map, as we are trying to show, which area is suitable for what. As you see here, those which are dark brown indicate the urbanized, unsuitable for urban development. Mm-hmm. And this one indicates the most suitable for agriculture, and the yellow one indicates suitable for most types of land uses, and so forth. Having this information in hand, we evaluated every square mile in this area. And then we took another element. We evaluated the communication network. We thought that in this country, and specifically in this area, the communication has great influence in an urban development of an area. We excluded the existing urban areas, of course, because we were not concerned with them. We included all the kinds of highways and transportation network, including the railway. Then we tried to evaluate in a strip along the highway the hinterland which goes beyond that highway of either 2 miles or 1 mile, and have that zone along every highway, every interstate highway in this case, included in our evaluation, and ignore all the other area from the communication point of view as a zero input in our evaluation. This was as the primary interstate federal highways, and here we try to show the interstate highways with 3 miles hinterland evaluation along the highway in this area. Then we went on, we picked the railway also as the potential for evaluating the resources which we have. And the same we have done with the local or the state highways. Now the third element which we took was the slopes. We tried to take the traditional classification of the slopes and evaluate that by square miles and by certain gradings. Now from all those 4 elements which we came with this maps correspondingly with the previous subjects, the 4 which we indicated, which indicate the value of each square miles. As you see it here already, that this area has the great potential value from the communication point of view, plus a minor area here. In other words, we can see, following the other maps also, that the central Botetourt County area is the most potential area and the most valuable area for us from the communication point of view. We have done the same with the corresponding subject of the slopes, and we notice a significant in the pattern in this case also, that there is great similarity between the potentiality of the communication and the slope potentiality. In other words, the good area from the slope point of view, which are potential for any development, is located majorly in Botetourt County and very minorly scattered around in the other area.
This is a grading system then, the numbers that are assigned to each of these blocks.
Yes.
And of course the higher number is the more suitable area?
That's right.
I see.
The higher the resources and the potentiality of that area.
I see.
the same we have done with the morphotopography. Actually, we evaluated the shape of the land in all the region, and we found the most suitable for development is located here by the same system. If you have already noticed, actually, that we graded the communication as the highest in grading, while the others have an equal grading, an equal value, the slopes and the morphotopography and the land suitability. Then what we have done, we combined all these four factors of including the land suitability, and we came with this comprehensive map, which indicate the combination of all the values of all the four elements. And we came with a very significant pattern that our main potential area for any kind of development, that would be rural type, urban rural type, or any other kind of urban, according to our values, is located in that central Botetourt County, while all the other area of the region is really a very poor in the resources of potentiality. Now, the highest grading which could be gained here in every box out of all the four elements is 24. You can hardly see anyone in this area except a very scattered pockets here and there which are colored, which gained higher than 14 or 15. And all those who have gained 15, which is more than half actually, are concentrated highly here. And mainly the red ones, which is the highest, the blue ones, and the light brown one. Now by this actually, we know now how much money we have in our pocket before we go shopping.
How much money do you have in your pocket then for this?
Well, we tried to eliminate all the other factors. What we need actually for designing a new town is minimum of 9 square miles, roughly. Then we have to pick with this highest potential area 9 squares, which every square indicates 1 mile, and concentrate in that 9 square miles and develop our city. But this is not all actually. From the systematic point of view, we might have done a very good job, but there is one more element which is the most and the very strong, significant element which you have to consider. And this is land ownership. What we have done actually, we tried to study in this area all the owners or the land ownership system within all the region. Actually, what we have done, we listed all the owners, which I guess around 30,000 or more in all the region, in all the 4 counties of the 5th Planning Commission. And we also gained all the blocks and the lots maps of all these regions. We put all the first information which are listed of the owners on the maps, which were around 300 maps. And then we took all the information from those maps and we put them in one map in order to get the feeling of overviewing the land ownership pattern within this region. Now, this map does indicate that land ownership pattern. We could notice actually here there are 2 or 3 major patterns of land ownership. One, which is indicated by green, most of the land is owned by either federal or state, which are most of them are forest. From the previous study which we have made, most of this area are inadequate for any development. So we can take that out of any consideration for our site selection.
Just
Now,
as an aside, would that have value as a recreational area?
that's right.
Right.
It could, but from the urban development point of view,
Then
it
it's
would
no
not
good,
have
right.
any value. It will have a secondary value to complement what the urban area might need for these people, or, as I stated earlier, for the people from the eastern part of Virginia. Now, the second pattern, which we notice, that there is a high accumulation, relatively high accumulation, of large owners, of large lots which owned by one person in the northern part of the region and partly in the very southern part of the region in the western part of the Roanoke County. Now, leaving Botetourt County without a major large lots owned by one hand. In other words, what I'm saying, that this area which we are concerned with is divided among many owners rather than having the possibility of one or two owners which might have had that land which we could have coordinate or cooperate with them in order to develop that a new town. Now, we looked upon that new town as a joint venture of private investor and public too. We do think that the public could do quite a lot in investment and also in supporting the development of this new town, but the major role should be for the private. Now, if you see here, actually, this pattern is really unique to compare with that one of the land which is right here. All those colored area is 100 acre and above. The white area and colored one is less than 100 acres. And then it goes 100 to 200, 200 to 300, and then 300 to 400, and then 400 to 500, and then 500 and above. Now, we can see here that the distribution of the landowners of 100 to 200 are nearly even in the area. In other words, we can select any area from the land ownership pattern point of view which will have the same equivalent value from our point of view. Okay? Now, combining all this information here, plus the previous systematical quantitative method which we try to develop, we came with the area which we thought would be the best and the preferable for that site. As you see it here, we selected, this is Route 81, we selected those area which has high grading within 1 square mile. Now we are talking about different scale in this new town, and we thought that within this region, all this area might be the most desirable for a selection of a site. We came with 12 potential sites, which we thought are the most preferable. Now, there is one which is the most preferable out of the 12. But if one will collapse for any negotiation reason for buying the land or so forth, then we can switch to the others. And we have a very flexible kind of a system in this pattern.
Then it would seem quite obvious to me, Doctor, that although you do have sites that you feel that are choice sites, you certainly not out of a sense of secrecy, but out of necessity at this point do not want to definitely pinpoint these particular areas.
That's right. That's right. We might even change our mind. We select number 3 or 4 instead of selecting number 1.
In the way of a timetable, how far would you say we are away from a new town? In years, is this difficult to say too, based on
Well, I think it is because it needs coordination and cooperation of many efforts here, public and private, including the people in the area itself, and the state and the federal.
I'll not pin you down to this, but just as a guess, if all things went smoothly in coordinating, what would be, off the top of the head, the earliest possible date at which a new town could be formed?
Well,
Are we talking about a decade, 2 decades?
No, I think we are talking less than a decade. We are thinking about the immediate future, if I could say in a general way, because we have a certain problem which we would like to solve it. We don't want to have the problem of Roanoke continue the way it is now. We would like to have a site, at least a new site for industrial location, which will be alternative for Roanoke.
But at this point, all of the planning strictly on paper, you have not gotten to the point of going out and interviewing people about their attitudes and their feelings?
Not yet, not yet.
Where in
This is the first time actually we are making that much publicity of this idea.
Well, I'm delighted that we could use this vehicle to do that, Doctor. Now, we have then established that Botetourt County, out of the planning district, at least somewhere in the Botetourt County area,
that's right,
we have many favorable sites.
That's
and perhaps
right.
One of these days the planning will come to fruition and we will be seeing and driving to and reaching that new town and
That's
its
right.
new people.
I think the earlier, I would put it this way actually, the earlier we establish that new town, the better it is, because I think what's happening now is there is already speculation of land on all Botetourt County, not because of this new town idea. I think because the people would like to have a better environment than the one which they have in the Roanoke City now. And there are quite a lot of development going on in the area. And people realize that they have to expand and establish their home in a better environment. So we are some kind of in a race with the real development, the actual development which is taking place, and with from the other side with orderly development, which we would like to have the responsibility.
In a sense, a race with time.
That's
Doctor,
right.
Thank you very much. It's been a most
Thank
interesting presentation. We're delighted that you would take time to come down and make the presentation for us. Thank you very much, Doctor,
Thank
for
you.
being our profile guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Today's profile guest has been Dr. Gideon Golany, Professor of Planning at Pennsylvania State University and consultant to the 5th Planning District Commission. Dr. Golany was interviewed by Lee Garrett, Director of Community Affairs for the Park Stations in Roanoke. This program was pre-recorded.